Welcome to Behind the Scenes with Music in the Spoken Word. I'm Derrick Porter, and today we are joined by two individuals whose work is rarely seen, but felt every single week. Craig Butler and Nathan Wright, who serve as the teleprompter team for music in the spoken word. Craig and Nathan, thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you, Derrick.
It's great to have you. Your role is so pivotal and far more intense and pressure-filled and important than most may ever realize as you're behind the glass, if you will, helping things to come about that are happening all throughout the church and certainly throughout each week's rehearsal and broadcast of music in the spoken word. How do you describe what it is that you do each week in a nutshell? And Nathan, maybe we'll start with you. How do you describe your role?
First, you mentioned that our work is rarely seen. Once in a while, a camera will actually catch a teleprompter monitor.
True.
And it isn't something that the directors usually like to see. And so that is probably one of the main reasons we're rarely seen. But as far as what we do, I think something like describing it as gentle reminders to everybody who needs it. The choir really actually does know their stuff really quite well. And if we were to go away for a few moments, they would probably just keep singing. It's true. And most of the other people who use prompter, it's kind of just a reminder for what they already know, whether it's the guest introducing people at the beginning, saying hi to the audience, etc. The people who use the prompter, it's stuff they pretty much already know, but it's a nice reminder. So.
Craig, what would you add to that about the role of, for those who aren't aware of how this works, of working as a teleprompter and helping to guide people?
Yeah. Well, like Nathan said, it's a reminder. If you've ever been singing and maybe forgot a lyrics or a word, it's nice to have that there if you can find it. I also think about the global participants that come in, and oftentimes English is not their first language. And I often think that those are probably using the prompter more than the regular English-speaking choir members. So it's a support for whoever might need it.
And so just to put this in context for our listeners, when we're in the Tabernacle, like we are on most Sundays, and there is a teleprompter rolling, either for someone like me, who may be delivering a spoken word message or a pre-show or post-show activity, or even the choir, you're not even in the Tabernacle. You are across the street, I believe, in the conference center, or maybe you're in the Tabernacle as well, and you have a studio, a spot in each, but you're not in the hall. You're in a separate room, watching on a monitor and listening, and then having a set of controls where you are following the pace or the speed of what is needed. So first off, do I have that right?
We are in a control room down in the basement under the hall, which actually is between the assembly hall and the...
So it's underground.
The tab, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're down there.
What'd you do to get put there? Was it Nathan's? Is this something?
This was
Nathan's fault?
The 2006 redesign of stuff, and that was probably where they found
space
to put our hole.
Yeah.
But you're right. You're underground in between, on Temple Square, in between the Tabernacle and the Assembly Hall. Okay.
Yeah. And so we're watching on a camera that's panned out onto the hall. And we have an audio feed, 2 or 3 actually, that are coming into us for redundancy. And we're just listening, and then we're following with the controls.
That is I can't imagine. I mean, you have to be so tuned in. Do you ever find your mind wandering for a second and saying, wait a minute, I got to get back to business here?
In fact, we could do our job with just audio, and it would be just fine.
Because you're listening
right
more than watching or observing anything.
With the screen and with the monitors going, sometimes it's seeing things can be distracting. And so
Interesting.
It's good just to listen and focus, like you say.
Now, how did you each get here? How did you get involved with music and the spoken word, with the choir, and really with the church as a whole? Because you're a shared resource that you help support numbers of individuals and groups. How long have you been with us, and how did that journey happen? Craig, let's start with you.
Well, for me, I've always enjoyed the audio world. And about 18 years ago, my wife was working with the wife of one of the audio engineers. And long story short, I ended up with an interview and came on as a temporary employee, able to participate. And then a job opened up in meeting support, which was any department having any meeting anywhere on what we called campus or Temple Square. I would go support, whether that was just a podium, whether it was multiple mics, whether it was a PowerPoint presentation, projector screens, whatever it might be. And I would watch our previous teleprompter operator, who some may know or remember, Wolf Zeisler. Hard to forget that name. He was the teleprompter operator, the only one for umpteen years, maybe 20 years, give or take. And he was going through his second person fairly often, and I thought, I think I would like to do that. And so I talked to him, and he gave me a shot. And long story short, he retired, and I was able to move into that position.
Wow, what a great journey. And Nathan, how about you?
So I've worked for the church for over 30 years, and along that path, doing various and sundry type of things in my employment, I would help said Wolfgang Zeisler in some situations. I helped him with music and the spoken word for prompting Lloyd Newell when he was doing spoken word live in those days, and also with conference occasionally. And as I sat there prompting conference talks in the basement of the Tabernacle, because there was no conference center in those days, and I was getting drowsy, and I would say, no, I will never do this full time. I will never be a teleprompter operator, because anyway, over the years, I did it off and on. And well, now it's what I do full time. So it's great.
Well, and you do it well. Nathan, we have this, all three of us, we have this like unspoken ability to communicate through the teleprompter. So I will often say something and then to get a response, because I can't hear you guys wherever you are. And so you'll nod the teleprompter up or down, or you'll type in kind of like E.T. from the 1980s. I see letters start to appear and meaning something. But often you'll even underline words or highlight words or help me. You know, Nathan, you could tell the whole world, what's one of the words you're working on me the most to pronounce appropriately?
So me and your wife.
Yes, true.
Both are trying to get you to say the hard TH on the word thank.
That's right. I've been working very hard on that. I usually say thank you, which I thought is the way you said it until I came here. And then I learned, for all of our listeners, it's thank you. Did I do well enough on that one?
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. And by the way, this is probably going to have to be edited out, because this might be top secret information that I'm about to reveal here. But if you go to General Conference and about 10 minutes before it starts, you hear this low, amazing voice welcoming everyone and inviting them to prepare for the session. And I thought to myself, who is that? What a great voice. And I asked around, and then I learned it was none other than Nathan Wright. Tell us how that happened. Were you just sitting there one day and thought, I need to do this, and recorded it? Because you do have a wonderful announcing voice. I think you could easily do the spoken word.
So how much do you want to know?
As much as you feel you can disclose. I'd like to hear it.
So I got a degree in broadcast journalism back in the day from the University of Utah. And my first real job was a news station up in Casper, Wyoming. So did that for about a year. Came back to Salt Lake City as my wife wanted to continue teaching. She was a school teacher in the district, which used to be Jordan District. But anyway, we came back and I did some radio for a while. And so I have some training in voice work. And when I got my job with the church, it was not in voice work, but I always offered. And so if you need a voice, that's great. And so they would come to me, and to some of my coworkers, I was known as the free voice of the church. And so I got to use it quite often. And so currently, the announcement that is right before conference, brothers and sisters, please find your seats and don't use your cameras and phones and whatever else. I got to do that. So along with
many other things,
many other projects
that we'd never even know.
That people may recognize my voice but have no idea who I am.
Yeah.
And that's just how I like it. So that's fine.
Well, it's fun, and you've done well with that. Now, Craig, what does a typical Sunday morning look like for you, from arrival to broadcast to wrapping up if there's a rehearsal after or something like that? What does this average day look like?
Well, on a Sunday morning, when we're in the Tabernacle, typically I like to get in about 6:45 to make sure that the monitors are set out, that the teleprompter monitors are set where they're supposed to be. And we never know if they're going to be there, because there may have been an event that night before. But that gives us a little bit of time to go out and see if they're there and to get them set up. From there, it's go down, turn on the whole control room, get all our monitors on, check all our audio feeds, turn on the intercoms, start listening to see if our director's there, and just everything that's going on. Oftentimes, someone like you or President Levitt or whoever is hosting the morning show will have sent us a script and would like to rehearse. And they typically would like to start at 7, and sometimes that's a good time, and sometimes we have to fudge that a little bit to fit it in. So we'll go through that, and then at 7:30 typically is when Mac is starting to warm up the choir and the orchestra, and we're there to go. We have our set list of what music we're going to go through, and we have to listen to him quite carefully. He's got his headset on. We have a direct feed to us of him, and that's the most important part, because he may not go in order. He'll start on one song and then bounce to the third one, and then down to the last one and back to the first one. And he'll start in the middle of a song on the third verse or in this chorus or whatever. And so we just have to be attuned and ready to go wherever he says. And he's very fast. He doesn't have time to waste. And so third verse, this song, and here we go. And we have to kind of know where that is and get there quickly in our whole set list. Once we get through all of that, we have a few minutes that we can kind of recuperate, get a drink of water, do whatever we need to do. And then the run-through starts. And we go through that, and then, or maybe that happens first, and then we have time to take a break. And then whoever is hosting comes right on, and they do their thing, and then you'll come on and do the pre-show, bring the audience into, here we go, we're going to start, please be quiet as much as you possibly can. And then the show starts at 9:30 on the dot and goes for the, is it 56 minutes, 57 minutes?
26, 58, I think.
And once that magic hour comes, we can kind of take a breath. So that's what our morning typically looks like.
And for the benefit of listeners, COVID-19 happens. Mm-hmm. Mac goes and starts watching a lot more of the broadcast than he had before, and realizes that the choir could achieve a much better sound if they weren't singing down, looking at the lyrics,
folders,
the music, right. The folders. So he says something a little bit crazy. He says, no more music, no more folders. And then, now, to this day, the choir sings through memorization of the movement of the notes, but through the recall of the lyrics that each of you are scrolling. And so for that 30-ish minute broadcast, not only are you helping support the spoken word or something that comes before or after, but everything that is being sung, you are having to scroll it at just the right pace. Is there like cruise control? You just put it on cruise control, or is it constantly, you really are doing it manually the whole time?
That would be amazing.
It would be amazing if there was cruise control. We should invent that.
There are actually apps that follow, can hear and follow. They're not perfect, the ones I've seen, but it takes a human to actually follow and keep the right speed. And even with that, I try to set a speed and just see how long they can stay with the speed and it never lasts very long. But
So speaking of that, how do you match, Nathan, the cadence and the speed of a speaker? Because some may just speak at a pretty steady plot, but others may have some variation. I think of like a President Holland or a President Monson, or people that may even sometimes insert some things that weren't there necessarily. So how do you work through that?
Right. And the first thing that we tell speakers when they are first learning teleprompter skills is we don't do the speed at all. It's totally up to the speaker.
It's you.
And so it's the speaker.
Okay.
And so we follow them regardless of what is happening. And like you say, they will go off script in some settings quite often and quite extensively. But we always say, when you are done with your off-script adventure, please come back to where we are waiting for you on the teleprompter. And it works out really well. And so,
when they do that.
Right.
Because I know I have not always done that. Sometimes I've gone off script, or we were shortened and we thought, I thought we had 3 minutes, we have 1 minute. And so I will just jump in my head knowing kind of what I need to say later, but you always catch up. You're always right there with me, like that life preserver throwing out. And so your ability to kind of know where it's going it's kind of a dance.
It helps to be familiar with the script. And so if we know that you're jumping to the God be with you or whatever, you know, then we know that it's time to jump to where you are. So.
Yeah. And so what do you do if something like totally unexpected happens? Because this has happened. You've both been doing this long enough, and there's times where I'm sure just something completely goes different. You just start to pray, you shut it down, walk away, you just hold where it's at. What do you do?
You just do the best you can. You go where you think you're supposed to go.
Okay.
I was at a high school graduation ceremony with one of the upper leadership of the church, giving a commencement speech. And it was about 20 pages long. And going through, and about halfway through, he realized it was long. He was losing the kids. And he jumped to the last page. And so I had to scroll through about 9 pages of text to try and catch up to him. That's not very often the case, but it does happen. It can happen. The funnest thing is if they do go off script and they come back 3 or 4 paragraphs below from where you are at, and then you got to go try and find that.
Yeah.
So, but you just do it.
Well, and you both do it so well. You have a unique vantage point. Even though you're in the basement in a room with no windows, underground, what do you see or notice that most people would never think about?
Something that, well, our audience is never going to see the teleprompter, which is probably a good thing, because we do lots of different helps for the speakers and for the choir. One of the ways that we have found that the choir has responded well to is color coding the words on the teleprompter. So like if there's some back and forth singing between the men and the women, we'll put one in one color and one in another color. And so you don't have to keep telling the choir what part is for whom. And so they know that their color is yellow and they just sing the yellow stuff. And so it's worked out really well. We also have other little, I try to put in punctuation only where there's going to be a breath for the choir. And so hopefully some of them caught on to that. Other times we'll put in a nice long M dash if it's a long note. There's just other little things that have helped the choir, I think. And so maybe we should ask sometime.
If it's working.
If it's working.
I've noticed that, and I think it is. It's actually kind of fun to be able to watch and follow the prompter at times and seeing the magic of that. In the Tabernacle, we have 4 monitors, 2 on each side of the hall, down low in front of the audience, and they're strategically placed so that the choir can be looking at Mac and looking right through and past him as well and seeing these monitors. And that works out really well. Other times, it's not as convenient. Sometimes I've seen you have to set up huge projection screens in the back of the hall so that people can have some freedom and some flexibility in looking around. Sometimes it's a television. Other times it's a little monitor that's maybe hooked onto a camera or something. So there seems to be a lot of flexibility there with that. Now, as I think about your role, there is a lot of trust placed in you in what you're doing. Craig, what does that responsibility feel like to you, knowing that, okay, we have 10 million people watching, on maybe a broadcast or a general conference session or something else that you're doing, or 21,000 people in a hall, and you are guiding this person along. How does that translate and feel on the inside?
Well, that's something that you sort of take seriously. It's a heavy burden that can be there. For me, I try not to think of that. I know that the audience is immense. If I start focusing on that, then the butterflies I'm already feeling, especially at the beginning of any event, start to take over. And so I push that away. I push that thought out of my mind. I don't even visualize it. The trust, I think, for me, is the number one thing to develop between that person that's either speaking or the choir that's singing. Mac is depending on it, or Ryan. It's a heavy responsibility, for lack of a better word. And you want to make sure that it all goes like it's supposed to go. So the trust, if I can develop that between you, between Mac, between the choir, for those who are speaking in a devotional or anything, I know that they are totally dependent on what's on that screen. And it has to be a no-fail situation. I can't be caught looking off to the right or the left. I can't get listening into the director on the intercom, or what Mac may or may not be saying that's important to me. There's a lot of different avenues of communication. You have to stay focused in on what is on the screen and what that person's looking at.
So Nathan, what are some of the skills that would make someone be a great teleprompter operator? What are some of those skills that are needed?
I think what Craig just said is the most important, which is focus. If you're an easily distracted person, which I have to admit I have been in my life, I get easily distracted on lots of different things, from momentary to professional job type things. Okay, anyway, but in a situation where you are live and the choir is singing or someone is speaking, you can't, like Craig said, go to the left, go to the right. It is, you are staring at that screen and your eyes are bored into every word that they're saying, just so you can keep it.
If you look away for a fraction of a second, a half a second, you come back and you're off.
And it
That's
can be
all it takes.
It can be very scary.
Yeah.
For people on both ends.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And that's the last thing we want to do is make it uncomfortable or nervous for that person that's already up there.
But one of the key elements of the focus is, like the scripture in Doctrine and Covenants says, if ye are prepared, ye shall not fear. And so there are ways to prepare a script, a document, that really help to keep control and keep focus. And if you've done your homework and you know what's coming and you've actually read through the script and or the song or whatever, it really helps with that comfort level. So.
Well, and I've certainly noticed that as you both have rearranged, formatting and blocking. Often for me, will Wright justify the script to help my eyes flow where they need to go in line with the camera. I had a surgery as a young boy with a lazy eye in my left eye. And one of the first things one of you noticed is, hey, it looks like you're looking off camera. And I said, what are you talking about? I'm looking right at the camera. We Wright justified it. Right. You did. And suddenly it fixed the issue. So formatting, nice. Color, underline, italices, a host of things that are done to be able to help that to occur. I think it's safe to say I would be a terrible teleprompter operator. I would be fired instantly. I just don't think I could maintain that kind of focus.
We could train you.
I don't know. We'd have to see, but it's probably too risky to even try. Yeah. We probably need to be careful with that. Now, you're helping deliver messages that are meant to inspire and uplift millions of people. Just this previous Sunday to this podcast will be released later, but on April 19th, we had a major expansion into Africa, where on that particular day, we were carrying the broadcast live to as many as 25 countries in Africa alone, with perhaps around an estimated viewing audience of 8 million people on top of the regular broadcast viewership that we have. And so you are contributing to that in a major way. Do you ever reflect on that and think about that as you're working in that moment of the reach and the scale and what's happening? I mean, there's very few people that have that kind of opportunity that you do to participate in such a way. What goes through your mind?
Well, for me, just all the time I'm thinking, how did I even get here? How did I do this? Why me? And I think back to when I was in high school. I was on a mission, and back in those days, I would never have thought about this day. Never. And yet here I am. And I am so grateful to our Heavenly Father for blessing me with this opportunity, and I try not to take it for granted. I absolutely try not to ever take it for granted. It's something I love to do. It's something I love to help with. It helps me feel fulfilled and like I am actually serving in even a greater capacity to my Father in heaven. And that's how I look at it.
Thank you. Nathan?
I think a lot of people believe sitting in a chair and scrolling a teleprompter controller is something that seems rather simple. And when you look at it that way, it is. Mm-hmm. But when you consider the trust that is put upon this person scrolling the words, you kind of figure out that the person who the words are being scrolled for wants someone there that they can trust. And so here's two guys that are in their mid-60s that most people would say, well, isn't a high school kid good enough to do that job? And maybe they could. I don't know. But there is a certain amount of trust over time that we have gained with not only the choir, but with leadership of the church, etc. And so it's definitely a welcome burden. It's a big thing, actually. There's quite a bit of weight on the shoulders, but having done it for enough years now and being able to prove ourselves to leadership and to the choir, etc., it is a very fulfilling thing to be able to be in this position.
Well, the trust is certainly there, and it's been earned over time. This is not something that just anyone could do because of all that goes into it to be able to deliver not only on the timing, but on helping the speaker sometimes even know how to go about something. Multiple times on set with both of you, you've come and said, I think you might pronounce this word a little differently, or I think you might place some emphasis on this word a little bit differently, or you might even change this word. And so there's so much support that's going into that as well. You all are involved with words more than almost anyone else because you are reading and rereading and thinking and watching that every word and every second. So in this role that is so often unseen but so important, what has brought you the satisfaction as you're listening to the words that are being sung or you're listening to the words being spoken? And do you find yourself being able to soak those in maybe a little bit more than the average person because you are fully tuned in and you're not scrolling social media on the side as you're prompting? Nathan, how do you respond to that?
As you said, we offer coaching as well. And
is it usually well received?
Most of the time, I will wait to be asked.
Okay.
If there's something that could be improved or whatever else, and then the door's open, and
once you've been asked, then you say, "Okay,
I feel okay to say yes."
Desire to
right, and so when we see the final performance, if you will, the use of our coaching, the right pronunciation of a word, the correct emphasis of something, that's very satisfying to me. If nothing stands out, if there's no misspeaks or just transparency, if that's the right word, and it just works, then that's very satisfying because there's no bumps in the road. Anyway, Craig, what do you think?
Yeah, it's you usually want to wait before you start offering, but once in a while, you just offer it anyways.
This Derrick guy just needs it. I'm just going to offer it.
Like you said before, everything about this is a dance. And at what point, if someone needs a little coaching, do you take over and lead? At what point do you fall back and follow?
Very good.
And that's the way I approach teleprompting. In my glory days, my youth, I participated on the ballroom dance company of BYU. And I learned how to lead. I was fairly good at it. And then they made us take the other part and learn how to follow. And when someone is up there speaking or singing in the choir, that's the way I look at it. And most of the time I want to follow, and I want to let that person lead. Let Mac lead the speed, whatever it is, and be a good follower. I never want to lead somebody through something that they don't want to do. If they need correction, we'll talk about it at some point in time.
So 2 last questions here. One practical and the other maybe spiritual. So for someone who, there's so much public angst out there about speaking in public. Many people say, oh, I'm so worried about giving this talk or doing this or what have you. What would you share? Because you've seen thousands of people do this and you've been at it for so long. What would you share to someone who is trying to present and speak publicly to help them say, here's what you ought to focus on, whether there's a prompter or no prompter? How do people get a message across? And what would you say is 1 or 2 of the tricks of the trade?
Have a clear message to begin with, something that you really want people to know, and then give it as yourself. Because if you try to be somebody else, if you admire someone as a speaker, admire a hero of some type, and you're trying to be like them, it's not going to come across, and people will see through it. So be yourself and just be clear with the message. Don't go too long.
Very good. Kay and Craig, what would you add?
Not much more to that.
Okay.
I would agree with everything Nathan just said.
Clear, be clear, have a clear message, be yourself. Don't go too long. Check your length. Well, at the risk of going too long, I have one last final question for each of you. If you could share one thought about the importance of behind-the-scenes service, something you both have done so well, what would that be? Craig, let's start with you, and then Nathan will go to you.
Well, I've always thought that each person, each position, each job is just as important as the other. And it would often be easy for us as teleprompters to say, we're the important one. If we don't perform, if we decide not to show up, then the whole show fails. And that's not even close to the truth. There's audio people, there's lighting people, there's video people, there's production people, there's stage manager people, there's all sorts of people out there. We're just a small cog in the whole production. And we're all just trying to do the same thing, to make this a successful broadcast or presentation in the name of our Heavenly Father and for our Savior, Jesus Christ. And for me, if I can keep that in mind, then everything else just takes care of itself.
Thank you.
Well said, Craig. I would bring up the scripture, which is kind of what you just talked about in Corinthians, where it says, where the parts of the body is saying, hey, I don't need any use, no use for the hand, or the eye says to whatever.
Right.
We're all part of that music and the spoken word body. Each person in that behind the scenes crew is very good at what they do, and they're very serious about what they do. And it's something that we can't do without, each one of them. I've heard Mac say to me personally several times, I'm so glad you're here. We'd be sunk without you. And he could say that to any member of the crew, and it would be true. We have to have every person, lighting, audio, video, cameramen, directors, producers, everybody, because if they weren't there, it would not work. So I'm just grateful for every part of this music and the spoken word body that I can be part of.
Well, a special thanks to you both for what you do.
Special what?
A special, let me just back that up real quick. A special thanks to you both for all that you do. Clearly you feel comfortable coaching me, and I'm very grateful for it. But truly, we are so grateful for your support, for the most important role you play. And you are right. We are all a part of something far bigger than ourselves. And that's one of the many things that makes this world's longest continuous running network broadcast possible. Every single Sunday are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people coming together, sharing a common vision, a common goal, all relying upon each other, knowing that it takes that entire village to be able to help this thing come to fruition. So again, a special thank you, and I hope you both have a wonderful rest of your day, and thanks so much for being with us on Behind the Scenes with Music and the Spoken Word.